Welcome to the Bread and Bible podcast. I'm Spencer.
I'm Haley.
And we are Bread and Bible.
Technically, I came up with the topic idea, but I didn't actually. I just thought to myself, what have you talked about recently that seemed like it could be podcast material? And that's what I came up with. So actually, you came up with this podcast idea, but I brought it back up to you.
Yeah.
And there are no questions. It is just it is technically one question. Which is, how does your eschatology affect how you live? Because, well, I'll just start with this. Eschatology is a fancy word, and it's one of the things that people don't really talk about that much, and a lot of people don't even know what they believe. And if they do have something that they believe, they don't know it's in this category, or what it means and stuff like that. And some people would argue they don't need to know, like it's an unnecessary, like it's a secondary, whatever. But you've talked about how it's very important and it affects your life and the way that you live, the way you do ministry and stuff. And so that's interesting. And so how so?
Well, we should probably start with defining our terms.
Yes.
So eschatology is basically a fancy way of saying the study of last things. And this is in relation to the Bible. It encompasses your beliefs on Revelation, your interpretation of Revelation, and certain texts in Daniel, Ezekiel, some in I think even in Jeremiah. I'm not too focused on like which texts they are, where they are, and extrapolating those. Not in this podcast, at least, but just the three main camps that you have, and then you have different factions inside of each of those camps, as I would put it. But the main three is premillennialism, postmillennialism, and amillennialism. Now, you're probably wondering where that comes from. That name comes from a verse in Revelation. I believe it's in Revelation 20. Do you want to look at it for me?
Maybe. We'll see.
But it's in relation to the text of the 1,000-year reign, so a millennium of Christ, the 1,000 years of his reign. So,
where to begin? The part about sealing, binding Satan for 1,000 years, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. That part. Over such the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will reign with him for 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison.
Yep. So basically talking about a very, 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 very long time. It's not actually 1,000 years, or else it would have already happened already. And, like we would be living in the end times 1,000 years ago. So it's obviously not a literal 1,000 years unless we are all hopelessly lost and everything has already happened and there's no hope for salvation for us. So that's obviously a heresy if you believe that the 1,000 years is quite literally 1,000 years, unless there's certain ways to look about it as well. So, like, if you're a premillennialist, you could technically believe that it's a literal 1,000 years, and we just haven't entered it yet. So that's the thought there. The reason why I'd say that it's a heresy to believe that it's a literal 1,000 years is because I'm postmillennial. So I believe that we are in the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Christ is reigning and ruling right now, and we are ruling with him on the earth. So that's just getting my point out there. But premillennialists can believe that it's a literal 1,000 years, and amillennialists
They don't
can't.
really.
They
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, they can't.
Because all millennial is probably what I would have called myself before Vector Bible College being taught about the ways that it's actually split up. But that's the idea that like the church is advancing, but so is the world, and like the world's getting darker, but the church is getting stronger, and the light shines in the darkness, and that whole it's basically saying like it's making it all philosophical, like
Yeah.
and saying that yeah that it's a type. So what happens in Revelation is a type of what happens throughout history, which is probably true. But I don't think that's the whole story. Because yes, God uses similar storylines and plots in different
Hmm.
parts of history. So there is some resemblance,
Yep.
but that's not the whole picture to the story. So anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So the three main camps, and I'll go in order from premillennialists to postmillennialists, kind of based on where you believe we are in relation to that 1,000-year reign. So the premillennialists obviously believe that we are before the 1,000-year reign of Christ and his and the church reigning with Christ. So so premillennialists believe that in the future, whether that's near or far, in the future, um, Christ will physically come down and he will rule and reign on the earth for 1,000 years. Satan will be bound for that time. He cannot uh, deceive the nations. He won't be able to. And um, and at the end of the 1,000 years, there's going to be a big battle, and Christ will ultimately prevail over Satan, and Satan will be thrown into the lake of fire. So that's the idea um, there. And then the amillennialists believe that we are in the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Christ is going to come back again at the end of the 1,000-year reign and do the whole Armageddon, the battle with Satan, and cast him into the lake of fire. But currently, we are on a downward trajectory towards that. So the world is constantly going to get worse and more full of just sin and depravity, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until Christ comes back and wins. The catch about that is that they still believe that the church is going to grow during that time. So they believe that the church is going to continue to grow in numbers and 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 um, and the people are all going to be persecuted so that they have no power, right? So the people of the church. And I could go into so many reasons why I think that's just so contradictory. And I probably will when I talk about my belief in postmillennialists that we are in the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And at the end, um, Jesus will throw Satan into the lake of fire, and we will live in the new heavens and the new earth. Right. So, but my belief is that the church will prevail. It will grow in numbers, but not just in numbers, but in influence. And so that's where I would differ from an amillennialist perspective. So the amillennialist is like the compromise between premillennialists and postmillennialists. It's like, yeah, the world is getting really bad, but the church is still doing good. And it's like, well, if the church is doing good, should not the earth also be doing well? You know, and uh, God said to Abraham in the nations, or in you the nations will be blessed, right? So in his offspring the nation was blessed. Well, we are the children of Abraham. Would we not bless the world if we are growing in numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Just logically, I don't think that the church could be growing in influence in numbers and the world could also be declining at such a rapid rate. So that's kind of where I'm at. And the some people will be like, well, then you're premillennials because the world is obviously getting worse. And it's not that case, actually. People have a much longer lifespans than they did 1,000 years ago. They have a lot more, just in general, there's technology, there's medicine, there's all these good things, good gifts that God has given us to alleviate the curse. I mean, we have less pain than we did years ago. We don't have to toil with the earth
Well,
like it says in Genesis that man would be cursed to toil the earth. Um,
yeah, well, I was also thinking about how when Jesus was walking around on the earth, there were regularly demon possessed people just there, like,
mhm.
and that was normal. It was like, and there are still like people who are possessed, and it's a thing that still happens.
Yeah, and in some
But
places it's considered normal.
yeah, but I feel like then it was more common, and so the whole idea of Satan being bound, um, it's like, well, a lot of people would argue, well, how is it that he could be bound if there's definitely still the effects of, Satan trying to deceive people. Um, but I do think that the deceive the nations is a key part of that because um since Christianity came on the scene and the church showed up, the world and specifically the nations actually are getting better.
Hmm.
And I think that you just have to learn your history because people always assume that the time they're in is the worst because they're experiencing the most of it. Like they're really feeling the pain and the depravity of their current situation, and they're not feeling what it felt like before. But it's like any amount of studying history, you're like, oh, it was worse then. And so I do think it is a little bit nearsighted when people say, well, obviously things are getting worse. It's like, well, I think that there's a little bit of both. Like
Yeah.
things are getting worse. And C.S. Lewis had the idea that as things come to a point, the contrast becomes sharper. And he fleshes this out in That Hideous Strength. And he talks about how at one time there were, all sorts of supernatural things going on and happening, and it wasn't necessarily like the people then weren't necessarily sinning to be taking part in it. And this is an interesting concept that I don't know enough about. But what the way I'm using it here is like just because dark and light are becoming more contrasted doesn't mean it's getting darker and it's getting lighter. It's like it's getting lighter, I think, overall, like as in the church is winning and like and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. It's not like they're growing alongside each other. And it's not like one against the other. It's like actually the church is winning. But as things come to a point and reach closer to the end, the contrast becomes more sharp. But again, I don't think I know enough about that. But
Well,
I
yeah,
do think it's interesting.
if you're losing a battle, which Satan is losing the battle,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be constantly fighting harder against the battle that he's losing,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's futile. So
Yeah.
if you get backed into a corner and you're fighting and you're fighting and you're fighting, you're trying to win, but you're up against an opponent that is so much better than you are, well, you're gonna look really gnarly.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's gonna look really bad really, really bad. And you're going to be fighting your butt off. You're going to be kicking and screaming as you're losing.
Well,
Right? So
that's
that's just that's the nature of it. That's how I look at it, is that Satan's losing the battle. And so the few that he is able to snatch up with him look really, really gnarly and bad. Like it looks pretty bad out there, but it's actually a small number.
yeah. Well, and we noticed that with like, well, so first of all, before I forget this, because I move on to something else, I made this observation in high school when we were learning about, I don't remember what class it was, probably doctrine. Um, but we were learning about how um, it was probably just end times conversation, whatever. And I made the observation that Satan really is kind of like a suicide bomber. Like, he knows he's going to die and he's just trying to take everybody with him. But then you bring up the point, does he know that he's going to die? Like, I mean, not die, actually, it's worse. Does he know that he's going to lose and be tormented forever? That is the question, because I assumed, well, I mean, have you read the book? You know, it's like, I'm assuming, well, we know how it ends. But somebody brought up the point that arrogance is incredibly blinding and is like the most arrogant character in history. And so there is a good chance that he's still holding out hope. Like, I mean, like when, after all those prophecies of Jesus and what he would do, like Satan probably still thought that he like just won when Jesus died on the cross, you know? And so it's just an interesting, like, does he know? It's like he should, but like, does he know? And so, anyways, I always thought of it as like he knows he's losing and he's just trying to take as many people with him as possible. But there is the question, like, I wonder if, like, is he that arrogant? Is he that blind that like maybe he's still holding out hope he's gonna win? But anyways, now I don't remember the thought that I was going to go to, so I'll just leave it at that. One at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. So practically though, since we've explained the whole idea of okay, what's premillennialism, what's amillennialism, what's postmillennium, how does that work out, right? So what I'm saying here is that your view on eschatology, whether you know it or not, is going to be affecting how you are evangelizing. Because if you believe we're premillennial, it's like, okay, well, when Christ comes back, that's like the world is constantly getting worse and worse. There's less people that are are there to be saved, you know? It's like everybody's falling into depravity. You have to save the few that are there and get them out. It's like a hostage rescue mission, right? So you're like, I want to get as many people out of here as possible, but I don't think it's very many.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be how you're looking at it, whether you realize it or not, because you only have a certain amount of time. You only have a certain amount of people in your influence, in your circle. You only have a certain amount of ability to convince people to follow Jesus. I mean, it's mostly, in fact, it's all the work of the Holy Spirit, so it's actually not on you.
Well, and that, because that brings up more than just eschatology, it also brings up whether you're Arminian or Calvinist,
Yeah,
which is just, we just leave that one there, just close that box for now and just shove it all over
we'll
there.
put it
But
over
like,
there.
but it
It's
does,
hard to separate the
it
two.
creates that urgency of like, oh my goodness, the pressure is all on you.
Yes.
So yeah, I can see that similarity with like the end times are coming and the tribulation is coming and like we're not going to make
Yeah,
it out,
that's
and like that it's a similar urgency and like pressure to like the I need to save as many people as I can and it's all on me kind of a thing. And either way, it's just that's more
well,
stress that I think Jesus had in mind for you.
and that urgency is actually good.
Yeah. The
So that's
urgency itself is good.
that's where I'm like, okay, I really like premillennials because they're really, really zealous evangelists, right? They're really, really zealous, but their only their only mindset is that okay, it's just a few people, just a few more, just one more,
Mhm.
every time, all millennialists are going to be the same way because they're believing that the world's getting worse and worse. They're a little contradictory because they still believe that the church is going to grow continually in numbers.
So maybe they're a little more
So
optimistic
they're
about the number of people.
they're a little more optimistic. They're like, oh well, it's probably going to be 100, not at just 18. But you'll be looking at those you'll be looking at those views as like, you know, pretty pessimistic. It's kind of like disheartening. It's like, oh, we don't have much time left. Like this is all going to be over. It's like we gotta we gotta do something about this. But the post millennial argument, it's going to affect how you present the gospel because you're not going to be there saying like there's no hope, the world is ending, it's all over. You're telling people like, hey, Christ is ruling and reigning right now. Christ is the king of this earth. He's the king of this nation. He's the king of this state. He's wherever you are. It's like he is ruling and reigning. And there will come a kind. There will come a time. There will come a time when he separates the wheat from the chaff, and he separates the goats from the sheep, or the sheep from the goats. Right? He's gonna take those who have accepted him into his kingdom and cast the rest into the lake of fire. So there is an urgency because we don't know when the 1,000-year reign is going to end, and all those people that are separated from Christ are going to be separate. We just believe in a longer game because we think that the church is going to prevail over the earth and that the whole world will believe in Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, so that's the other part of it that part of in Revelation it says that all the nations will hear. I don't know if that's in Revelation or if Jesus says that. It's in the New Testament somewhere. But basically all the nations will at least hear the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
If not, the assumption is that those who are chosen will accept. And so I mean, not all the nations have heard yet. Not all the people have heard yet. And so there's a sense in which you're kind of like, okay, well, we've got a little bit of time because not everybody's heard the gospel yet. And a lot of people have. But it's like there's, in that sense, there's still time. And something you notice with post millennials is most post millennialists is that they are definitely playing the long game more so
Mm-hmm.
because they're realizing, oh, well, if we have to take over the whole world, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time and generations and
Well,
building off of each other. So they're kind of just like, well,
and that's the
we're
other
going to
thing.
win, but it's going to take a while.
That's the other thing is that they're going to play the long game,
Yeah.
right? So that's the other aspect of life that it's going to get into. I mean, it really touches all the aspects of life that you have. It touches your family. It changes how you shape your family because you're not just raising the next generation that might not, make it to the end of the world. You're raising the next generation that's going to be fighting in the world and and promulgating the gospel, putting forth, spreading the gospel. You're raising up flaming arrows. You're not just raising up, refugees
Just survive.
that are just surviving and then they're going to be raptured up. It's like, no, you are training your children to go out into the world and fight against the forces of evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because why fight if there's no hope of winning?
Mm-hmm. I've heard it like we're just in the victory procession of Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's much more optimistic. And I think that a lot of people are like they just don't know what they believe. But if you ask them, is Jesus on the throne? They'd say yes. So I feel like and we have to talk about this. If we're talking about eschatology, we have to talk about the fact that like people don't know what it is, and people have a lot of assumptions. So like culture at large has just really gotten into the whole like revelation as a literal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like so a lot of times you hear like all these crazy things are gonna happen, and it's like those were all uh a lot of symbolism that people are now like trying to make some of it symbolism and some of it actual events, and then like dramatizing it and making it into a movie, and that's what people are basing their eschatology on.
Yep.
But at the same time, if you ask them, is the church going to advance and the gates of hell will not prevail, and is Jesus on the throne, they're going to say yes. Like it's there's a lot of assumptions, and there's a lot of people who just don't know how to categorize their beliefs, you know? So I think we should give more credit to the people who just don't know and who are like, you ask them, are you pre or post millennial? They're like, I don't know. You should just ask them, is Jesus on the throne? Are we going to win? And they're like, cool, you're a post millennial. I'll explain the rest later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basic, super basic. And
Yeah.
technically, they all believe that we're going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it's a matter of when and what's happened
When
and
and
what will
yeah.
happen.
When and what
Yeah,
and
so
where.
there's a lot more to it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And we could get into the whole idea of Revelation and the apocalyptic nature of the book and certain dispensationalist interpretations of it,
Mm-hmm.
and what I believe is the actual historical um, account of what is being foretold there, um, to that generation, just like Jesus talks about. But I don't want to dive into that can of worms because it's a very big can of worms.
You could dive into it. Literally dive into it.
Yeah, and sink and
It's a lot of worms.
yeah, be eaten alive.
Wow.
But
It might be a little late for this.
maybe just a little bit.
It's funny.
But I don't want to get into that. I'll just go into you know the idea of post millennialism. It's I mean eschatology is gonna shape how you look at institutions as well,
Mm.
because and like this world, the nature of this world. Because if you're believing that this world is just gonna be obliterated, and in a sense it it will. I mean, it might even actually be obliterated, but we don't know that. I mean, we can guess, um, but the Lord called us to build our family, to build His church, and to um, to teach the nations and disciple them, right? And so, if you're a premillennialist and you're believing that we're not in the 1,000-year reign of Christ yet, when He comes back, He'll reign, He'll rule, it'll be great, and then we'll go up to heaven, and then the new earth and the new heavens will be created, and all these things, right? But you're not thinking long term on this planet. You're thinking like, oh, politics? Well, it doesn't matter anyways. I mean, whoever's in office is the lesser of two evils. It's like, Well, do we really have to think about it that way? Because if we believe that the church is going to prevail, which it will, because Jesus said so, the gates of hell will not prevail against his church. Why would the gates of the world or the gates of politics prevail against the church? Why should the church not be the one influencing politics? You know? So that's a simple, just logical conclusion that if you believe that this world doesn't really matter, that gets into a lot of that gets close to a lot of different heresies, including like Gnosticism. It's like, oh, well, I'm getting a new body anyways. Shouldn't brush my teeth, work out, or do anything like that. It's like, no, your body is a present your body as a living sacrifice to God. Take care of it. God gave you a body. If he knew that, well, he knew that you were gonna put tons of trash in it, McDonald's and whatnot, you know. But if you knew that you were just gonna give your child this gift, this really, really good, you know, filet mignon steak, right? And they're like, oh great, it's a free gift. I'm gonna put ketchup on this thing. Or even worse, like something like mustard or mayonnaise. That would be weird. Like bad, gross. It's like,
Because
no.
ketchup is like allowed sometimes,
Yeah,
but not
but
on a filet
not
mignon.
on filet mignon.
Yeah.
Right. So
But
like
mustard is never allowed in any situation. Anyways.
yeah. So like you get right. You're giving your child this free gift, and they desecrate it. You know that's the way that I see eschatology forming and shaping how people, specific Christians, look at the world. So when I hear people who claim to be premillennialist or amillennialist talking about, hey, we need to, go march at the Capitol for life, they're contradicting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they believe that the world's just going to keep getting worse no matter what, they shouldn't be out there marching for life. They should be evangelizing and trying to turn people in as much as they can, you know? But that's contradictory to just go out there and be like, "Hey, we're here for life." It's like, but you don't think life is going to take very long to end. So,
Well, and also on the other, like if you're going to the Capitol marching for anything, but you don't believe that the church will prevail against the institutions of the world, then it's like, well, it's a lost cause. Like, are you just doing it
yeah.
because? And this actually, I think, is the case. They're doing it because they feel like they should. Because you should. It's like you should go and stand for life. That's actually awesome. And so it's like we need to give a little more credit because it's like you should go do that.
Yeah,
Even if
definitely go
even
do
if
that.
even if you don't understand why or if it's contradictory. But you should also have a better understanding of, what you're saying behind what you're saying is that you think we're going to, that we can make a difference. Because if you're just going, it's like an example of this is like the March for Life in Wenatchee. Um always felt that way for me of like I love that we're doing this and I showed up, but at the same time, we have like zero hope that it's actually going to make a difference in the state. And that's because we're a smaller town and nobody in Olympia or in Seattle cares. And so it's kind of like, well, is it going to work? Is it worth it? I don't know, but we're going to show up because we care about this and God cares about it. And so it's like you're almost doing it whether it works or not, just because you know it's right. But it's much more fun to do these things when you have hope and you're like, hey, we're going to win. Maybe it'll be like 50 to 100 years, but this is actually worth something and it's going to be awesome, even if I don't get to see it. And it is a slight shift because, yeah, I mean, there are still people who will go out there and say, yeah, I don't think the whole state is going to turn, but like this matters to me because it matters to Jesus, and that's great too.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And those people, it's like, great, that's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. The Spirit's leading you. Uh, you're obviously, you love Jesus. And that's all that really matters. I'm just pointing out here, like, your eschatology is going to change the way that you look at it. It's going to change your outlook on it.
Yeah.
And you're going to actually have more hope.
Yeah.
Because, Jesus will win. He has won.
And he'll win in every area.
Yeah.
It's not just like the secret church underneath, you know. And it's like, well, there are probably going to be times, and have been times, when that's how the church operates. And there are places during our current time where that's how the church operates. But overall, it's like we do believe that it will become more than just a couple people in a cave somewhere. It's like that's not where it begins and ends. Sometimes that's where it begins, but it's like the church ends with Jesus ruling all of the nations, and the church being a part of that, part of bringing that about. Like when we're Jesus's hands and feet, we're not just, it's like we're serving people, we're loving people, and we're conquering the world the way Jesus conquered the world.
Yep.
So.
Yep. We are the body.
Mm-hmm.
We are the bride of Christ. We'll reign and rule with him, as it says, which I believe we are doing now.
Yeah. And that's cool to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gives you hope.
Yep.
And you look out and you're like, man, it's really grim. Well, get to work.
Yeah. Fix it.
Fix it. Do something about
it.
Don't just sit there and say,
Yeah.
man, it's really bad out there.
Yeah.
Wish somebody would go out there and put a storm shelter in or something. It's like, well, go do it. Go do that.
Yeah, I think that that's also a big part of the hope, is that if you're playing the long game, you have hope for the long game. You're not believing that you personally will be the one to oversee the conquering of the world,
Yeah.
But you do believe, and there's totally room for you to believe, that you can have a part in the church conquering the world, And so you don't have to think you'll do it all in order to think it'll happen. And so you can just get up and just do what God called you to do. And it could be really tiny, and it probably will be, because there's a lot of people in the world who do a lot of tiny little things for Jesus. But he sees them all, even if nobody else sees them all or remembers any of them, And so it's like you can have hope to be like, hey, I'm a part of something that's a whole lot bigger than me. I might never see it happen, but like this little thing matters.
Yep.
And you can do all of it for Jesus, like he's going to win, and you get to be a part of it.
Yep. You have no idea who you are influencing in your life. You have no idea who they're going to turn out to be. Right? So, one of the stories that I love from Doug Wilson and his family, N.D. Wilson says this often, is that, Jim Wilson, Doug's father, was behind in school. And there was one 18-year-old, because he got sick, there's one 18-year-old girl in that one-room schoolhouse that he was in that took 2 weeks to tutor him to get him caught up. And he ended up, because of that, I mean, it's hard to say that it was because of that.
Right.
But I don't think
certainly
that
helped.
It certainly helped, and it certainly made a difference. Because of that, Jim Wilson became such a great evangelist and ended up moving to Moscow and having his son create a huge ministry there, from building a school, a church, and a college, all there, that is still doing well, and his legacy is continuing to live on
Well,
in
and
greatness.
he published and sold books.
Yes.
So that's what's funny is that like the kid who was behind in school is the one who strategically moves to this town because there's colleges in it and he could sell books there.
Yep.
And it's just I love that.
Starts
It's like,
starts a bookstore.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Well, I think that's a wrap.